The laughter reached him before he even looked up. It was loud. Sharp. The kind of laughter that wasn't meant to be hidden. The kind that made strangers turn their heads. Marcus slowly lifted his eyes from the black luxury SUV he had been scrubbing. For a second, he didn't recognize the woman standing across the street. Then his heart sank. His ex-wife. She stood beside a sleek white car, dressed like she had just stepped out of an expensive boutique. Designer handbag hanging from her arm. Sunglasses resting on top of her carefully styled hair. And she wasn't alone. 3 women stood behind her. They were laughing too. One of them covered her mouth. Another pointed directly at Marcus. The third shook her head in disbelief. Marcus looked down at himself. His old gray t-shirt was soaked. His jeans were covered with water and soap. His knees were muddy. His hands were rough from days of work. And beside him were his 2 children. His little daughter was kneeling beside a bucket, squeezing a yellow sponge with both hands. His son was wiping the lower part of the SUV with a cloth that was almost bigger than his arm. Marcus swallowed hard. He had spent the last 6 months trying to make sure his children never saw him as a failure. But now, his ex-wife was standing there, laughing at exactly what he had been trying to hide. She slowly walked toward him. Her heels clicked against the pavement. Marcus? He didn't answer. She smiled. Not the kind of smile people give when they're happy to see someone. It was the smile of someone who had just discovered something they couldn't wait to tell other people about. She looked at his children. Then at the bucket. Then at the SUV. Finally, she looked back at him. You actually wash cars now? Marcus lowered his eyes. Yes. She laughed again. Wow. His daughter stopped scrubbing. Daddy? Marcus immediately looked at her. Keep washing, sweetheart. But mommy is laughing at us. The words hit him harder than anything his ex-wife could have said. Marcus looked at his daughter and forced a smile. It's okay. His ex-wife folded her arms. Don't teach them to be ashamed of honest work. Marcus looked up. For the first time, there was anger in his eyes. You're the one laughing. She shrugged. I'm not laughing because you're working. She glanced at his clothes. I'm laughing because this is where you ended up. Silence. Marcus looked away. 3 years earlier, he had been a different man. He had owned a small construction company. Nothing huge. But it was growing. He had a decent house. A good car. Savings. Plans. Then one contract collapsed. Then another. A business partner disappeared with money. Bills started piling up. The company went under. And when the money disappeared, so did his marriage. His wife had told him she couldn't spend the rest of her life struggling. She took the children. She moved into a beautiful apartment. And Marcus started over from nothing. He didn't tell his children how many nights he had slept in a tiny rented room because he couldn't afford the house anymore. He didn't tell them how many jobs he had applied for. He didn't tell them how many people had looked at his resume and said, "We'll call you." Nobody called. So he started washing cars. Not because he wanted to. Because his children needed food. Because school fees didn't care about pride. Because rent didn't care about heartbreak. Because life doesn't always give you the job you deserve. Sometimes it gives you a bucket. A sponge. And a chance to survive. His ex-wife stepped closer. You know, Marcus, I never thought I'd see you like this. He kept scrubbing. Then don't look. One of her friends laughed. His ex-wife's smile disappeared for a moment. Then she pointed toward the children. And you're making them do this too? Marcus immediately stood. They're not working because I forced them. His voice was calm, but firm. They asked to help. His son looked up. Daddy said we're a team. Marcus looked at him. That's right. His ex-wife stared at the children. For a brief second, something changed in her expression. But it disappeared quickly. Well, she said, I guess everybody has to find their level. Marcus said nothing. She turned to leave. Then she stopped. Wait. She pointed at the SUV. How much are you charging for that? Marcus looked at the vehicle. $20. She laughed. 20. Yes. She shook her head. Marcus, that car probably costs more than your entire life. His daughter frowned. Marcus clenched his jaw. Before he could respond, the sound of an engine interrupted them. A second vehicle pulled up. Then another. Everyone turned. A convoy of black SUVs slowly stopped at the end of the street. The laughter disappeared. 3 men stepped out. They weren't dressed like ordinary customers. They looked serious. Professional. One of them walked toward Marcus. Excuse me. Marcus straightened. Yes. The man looked at the SUV. Then at Marcus. Are you the man who washed this vehicle? Marcus nodded. Yes. The man's expression changed. Good. Marcus looked confused. Why? The man reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. Because the owner has been looking for you. Marcus froze. His ex-wife frowned. Looking for him? The man nodded. Yes. Marcus wiped his hands on his wet jeans. Who? The man looked directly at him. Then he said something that made Marcus's entire world stop. The owner of that vehicle. He pointed at the SUV. Wants to speak with you personally. Marcus looked at the car. His ex-wife looked at him. Her friends stopped smiling. Even the children went silent. Then the rear door of the second SUV opened. A distinguished older man stepped out. He looked around 70. Expensive suit. Silver hair. A gold watch. 2 security guards followed him. The man walked slowly toward Marcus. Marcus didn't recognize him. But the moment the older man saw Marcus, his expression changed. His eyes widened. He stared at him for several seconds. Then he whispered. It really is you. Marcus frowned. Do I know you? The older man smiled. No. He looked at the black SUV. Not yet. Then he turned toward the vehicle and said. Did he wash it himself? The driver nodded. Yes, sir. The older man looked back at Marcus. And you did this with your children? Marcus glanced at his son and daughter. Yes. The man smiled. Interesting. Marcus was becoming uncomfortable. Sir, if there's a problem with the car, I'll fix it. The older man laughed quietly. No, Marcus. He stepped closer. There is no problem with the car. He paused. There is a problem with something else. Marcus waited. The man's face became serious. Your life. Marcus stared at him. What? The older man pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen. Then turned it toward Marcus. On the screen was a photograph. Marcus's photograph. But it wasn't a recent picture. It was from years ago. A younger Marcus stood beside a large construction project. Behind him was a massive building. His ex-wife stepped closer. She recognized the photograph immediately. What is that? Marcus looked at the older man. How do you have that? The man smiled. Because I've been searching for you. Marcus's stomach tightened. For what? The older man answered calmly. For the man who saved my company. Everyone went silent. Marcus shook his head. I think you have the wrong person. No. The older man shook his head. I don't. He looked at Marcus's children. Then at the bucket. Then at the soap-covered ground. And finally at the woman who had been laughing at him moments earlier. You lost everything. Marcus said nothing. The man continued. But you didn't lose your character. He reached into his pocket. And pulled out a business card. He handed it to Marcus. I want you to come to my office tomorrow morning. Marcus looked at the card. I don't understand. You will. The man turned to leave. Then he stopped. And Marcus? Yes. The older man looked back at him. Don't wash another car after today. Marcus stared at him. His ex-wife stared too. The older man walked away. The SUVs followed. Within seconds, they were gone. Marcus stood frozen beside the luxury vehicle. His daughter tugged his wet shirt. Daddy? He looked down. Yes, sweetheart. Are we still washing the car? Marcus looked at the black SUV. Then at the card in his hand. A strange feeling moved through his chest. For the first time in months, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Across the street, his ex-wife was still staring. But she wasn't laughing anymore. She walked toward Marcus slowly. Who was that man? Marcus looked at her. I don't know. She looked at the card. What's his name? Marcus didn't answer. She reached for it. Marcus pulled it away. Her eyes narrowed. Marcus. He looked at her. What? She hesitated. For once, she didn't know what to say. Marcus looked at his children. Then back at his ex-wife. You should go. She stood there silently. Because something about the way those expensive cars had arrived. Something about the way that powerful man had looked at Marcus. Something about the card in Marcus's hand. Told her that the man she had just laughed at might not be the man she thought he was. And the next morning, when Marcus walked into that office, he was going to discover that the life he thought had ended had only been waiting for the right person to find him.